everyone, and welcome back to my channel today. It's been 2 or 3 weeks since I last uploaded a video, and so I just kind of wanted to get on here and make some more content for you guys, give you a little update about how I'm doing, and then shift into what this video is really going to be about, and that is all about anxiety and POTS. So briefly, just wanted to touch base with you guys, let you know I'm still getting the IV saline solution or infusion every week, still 1.5 liters over the course of 2.5 hours. And overall, it's really helpful. There are some times where it's not as helpful, and I find that to be the case when the schedule is pushed out a bit. So like if I go 9 days without it versus just the 7 days, I find that it's like my body's trying to play catch up and it doesn't work as well. But overall, the IV therapy has been really beneficial to me, and the main ways that I've noticed is my heart rate standing up doesn't get as high. I can do more on my feet on a good day, and the brain fog is the biggest change. I don't experience extreme brain fog hardly ever since I started the IV. And so that is huge because brain fog was one of my worst symptoms. So it's definitely really helping, and we're still just doing the peripheral IV, in my arm or sometimes on my hand if they can get it and things like that. So it's going good so far. I don't know how the future looks because I know, after time of doing so many IVs that it's not good for your veins. So we'll just have to see how that goes in the future. But yeah, that's how I've been doing as far as with the IV therapy, and that is still the only, well, I don't know what it's not a medication, but that's the treatment that I'm doing right now for my POTS, along with, compression socks, hydration beyond the liquid IV, because I still try to drink around 100 ounces a day, not just the IV once a week. So that's how I'm doing with that. But today's video, I wanted to talk all about anxiety and POTS and dealing with that, because I've talked to a lot of POTS sufferers who are going through similar things that I am, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it and get it out there and maybe make this video a space where we can talk about it together, because I know a lot of us face, sometimes crippling anxiety along with our POTS. And for some of us, maybe we had anxiety before we had our diagnosis or started showing symptoms of POTS. And for some, maybe we didn't, and it's just a new thing that is, really causing us to stress out and wonder what's going on with our bodies, because we have this newfound anxiety that we didn't have before, and that can be really scary. On my channel, I've talked about the fact that I deal with anxiety with my POTS, but I haven't really made a video or talked about, like the history of my mental health and my other diagnoses as far as anxiety and panic attacks go. But I'll go ahead and just briefly give you a rundown without too much detail, just for a background. But before I had POTS, because my POTS came on overnight, before I had POTS, I was dealing with agoraphobia, panic disorder, PTSD, and, anxiety. So I already dealt with that on a daily basis, but I was doing pretty well. I was, conquering my fears in therapy, doing pretty well with it, especially compared to now. I was, doing things that made me uncomfortable, going to the store, going out places, and I was actually in a pretty good functioning place, and I didn't have like day-to-day anxiety. And that's what I want to make clear. I don't have generalized anxiety like over daily tasks or things like that, but mainly panic disorder and panic attacks like in certain situations, and the fear of going to new places and blah blah blah. But anyways, I was in a pretty good place, and then when I got POTS after having a viral illness, literally overnight, my fight or flight response, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today, has been engaged almost daily, if not daily for sure, on some level. So when I first experienced POTS, a lot of that was like what I recognize now as a big, huge adrenaline surge, adrenaline dump. Fight or flight was totally just kicked into high gear, and I shook. My body was shaking for like 24 hours, and I had gone to the ER and they told me it was just anxiety. And I thought that that's what it was. I wasn't aware that my heart was beating like super high, until they put me on the monitor and it was like 150 for no reason. And I just thought, yeah, it's just anxiety. And my psychologist, she felt the same way. You're having maybe a PTSD flare up, and it kind of fell in line with that. So that's kind of what I went with. But then we noticed the physical components and the orthostatic components, of things. We started to see that, when I was up and around and trying to walk or getting up, that my symptoms were more physical than anything. Um, Heart racing, lightheaded, dizzy, blacking out, things like that. And anxiety does not have a positional component. You don't have anxiety just because you stand up, and then when you lay down, the anxiety goes away. That's not really a thing. So my psychologist actually recognized that and said that she had helped a patient prior to me at some point to figure out that she had POTS and actually did not have a psychological disorder. Now, I know for me, I do have these things going on with me before POTS, with the panic disorder and things. But getting POTS made that so much worse for me. It's a daily struggle, and I know it is for a lot of us that have POTS, and it can be really crippling. Excuse the child screaming in the background there. Had to go talk to him. But anyways, a lot of us do have crippling anxiety, and some of that has started due to the fact that we got POTS. And as we know, POTS is a disorder of the autonomic nervous system. And so I'm going to talk about, maybe why we get these adrenaline dumps, because, I've talked to so many and heard so many stories from people who have POTS that are getting these adrenaline dumps. And, it's really confusing to know whether or not you have anxiety and that's making you feel sick, or is it because you have POTS and you're not really anxious about anything. It's like the chicken or the egg. What came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first? Are you anxious, or is it just your POTS and your body, mimicking anxiety? Because as an autonomic nervous system disorder, your parasympathetic nervous system is a part of that, and that system, it controls the adrenaline and things like that in our fight or flight response. So of course, if it's not working properly, our bodies are going to be out of whack, and it's going to mimic that fight or flight response, and thus our bodies are going to present with a lot of anxiety. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I wanted to quote from this article on the healthline.com about adrenaline and the fight or flight response, and we can talk a little bit about it. But adrenaline is defined as being, or also known as epinephrine, is a hormone released by your adrenal glands and some neurons. And so adrenaline is also known as the fight or flight hormone. It's released in response to a stressful, exciting, dangerous, or threatening situation. Adrenaline helps your body react more quickly. It makes your heart beat faster. We know that's the case. It increases blood flow to the brain and muscles and stimulates the body to make sugar to use for fuel to save your life. And when adrenaline is released suddenly, it's often referred to as an adrenaline rush or adrenaline dump. So basically, that adrenaline rush begins in our brain, and it's telling us that we are in danger, and then that fight or flight mode kicks in, and our bodies react in different ways, telling us that we need to be prepared to fight because we're in danger. Now, of course, our logical brain knows that we're not in danger, but this kind of fight or flight response and this adrenaline and our parasympathetic nervous system takes over, and logic goes out the window, and we just are left feeling so anxious and afraid, and we don't even know why. And it's also something that's really hard to control once you're in the thick of it, because it's easy to say, like for me, I try to tell myself, okay, it's just the POTS, you'll be fine, rest, let it pass, you have no reason to be anxious. And those things are true, but when you're in the thick of it, it's so hard to talk yourself down sometimes, especially if you have a history of anxiety and panic attack. Because for me, my body, when I'm having a POTS flare and things, it mimics anxiety and panic attacks. So my body and my brain are trained to react a certain way when I'm feeling those things. And so it's really hard some days to talk myself off that ledge when I'm in the thick of it. So for most people who don't have POTS or other disorders that cause their nervous system to not work properly, it would take an actual scenario that, like something scary that would cause that adrenaline to build up in your body, or like a rush or a dump of adrenaline, like watching a horror movie, jumping out of a plane, bungee jumping, all sorts of things that we can do, zip lining. You can think of several things that might cause us, to be fearful and our bodies to react that way. But for someone with an autonomic nervous system that does not work properly, like yours and mine, we don't really have a lot of control over the way our body is going to react day to day. I know for me, it's like a daily battle. Any little thing that's perceived by me to be stressful or emotional, emotions play a huge role in my POTS symptoms. It's like I can just feel it. My body gets really hot and I just feel like I'm in danger, even though I know I'm not. And I just feel so anxious and I get the really bad shakes and things like that. And I've said in my other videos, but I always thought, since I got POTS and did research, that I had hyperadrenergic POTS, which a lot of these things that I face and others face to do with these hormones and everything being in excess in our bodies. I thought for sure that I had hyperadrenergic POTS, but it turns out I don't. Based on all the testing that we did, which was quite extensive, I don't have that form of POTS. But this is still how my body is reacting to my autonomic nervous system not working properly. I wanted to read a little bit more from this same article and kind of just go through some of the symptoms that you might face. So what are the symptoms of an adrenaline rush? Rapid heart rate, sweating, heightened senses, rapid breathing, decreased ability to feel pain, increased strength and performance. I wish I had that part. Dilated pupils, feeling jittery or nervous. So most of those things I do feel almost every single day, and it's not fun. And so let me know down below in the comments what kind of things you face, what type of anxious feelings or sensations in your body that you have to go through. And I know a lot of people have this more so at night, and they kind of wake up with this fight or flight response. And that can be really scary too. When I first got POTS, that was happening to me a lot. Now it's more so during the day. But it kind of makes sense too that some people can't fall asleep because you have that adrenaline rush in your body, and there's nowhere for that adrenaline to go, because there is no real fear, there is no real danger. You don't need to flee, you don't need to really fight, and so you're left feeling restless and exhausted, but you still can't get to sleep. So that can be really hard for some of us. I touched on this earlier, but for me, I found it's really important to just keep voicing to myself, keep telling myself that I'm okay, I'm in a safe place. There's no reason to be overly anxious or afraid. Some days that works pretty well, and then other days it's like it gets on top of me and I can't really control it or have much effect over it, if you will. So it's just kind of a daily battle, but we just have to keep trying and do our best and do things to take care of our bodies and just kind of do the best that we can. That's really all we can do. And it's not an easy road. And if you face anxiety either before you had POTS or it didn't develop until after, I understand what you're going through. I empathize with you, and just reach out if you ever need someone to talk to or bounce questions off, things like that. I'm here, and just keep fighting and telling yourself that you will be okay, and that you've made it through 100% of your worst days. I love that quote. And just take it a day at a time, sometimes, an hour at a time. And for me, what really helps when I'm having that anxiety and the shakes and feeling really scared is I can call someone and talk to them, and they distract me until my body calms down. I've started journaling. That helps to ground me a bit. Listen to your favorite music or relaxing music. Read a book if you can focus on it, and maybe put your feet up and make sure you stay hydrated all the time. Never stop drinking water or electrolytes and things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about anxiety today and how it affects us when we have POTS. And so please reach out, leave me a comment below, let me know your story and what you're going through, and I'd love to connect with you that way. Also, one more thing, if you guys have any ideas for videos that you'd like me to make or things you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below and I'll be on the lookout for those. And I guess that's it. I hope you're having a great start to your week and that you're doing well. Please feel free again to reach out anytime, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.